up in here. My name is Dr. Will, and I'm here to slap you with an all-you-can-eat buffet of quantum game. If you all are endeavoring to help me on this mission, you will need a special toolkit. Before I get started, we are going to have a continuity with my biography. From Inglewood, and I left Chicago at the age of 12 to move to Atlanta, Georgia. That's right, East Point. Growing up, I had a passion for mathematics. My mom often found herself working late, so I had a lot of idle time. That is when I started working on local neighbors' cars. For fun, fixing cars seemed to have come naturally. One of my neighbors had a 1988 Pontiac Grand Prix. He would always let me work on the car, whether it was changing the alternator or making minor fixes. His hook. In the summertime, there were summer programs designed for inner city black kids at Morehouse College. I will never forget, I was in 6th grade when they had a mechanical engineering program. We started out building things with Lego blocks, which was fun, but I wanted a challenge. But one particular day, while I called myself going to the bathroom, I saw that a college student had a mechanical engineering book. I grabbed it and slid it in my book bag as soon as I got to the gymnasium. On my way home, I cracked that book open and a monster was created. I would read that book every day. In this book, I learned everything from geometric tolerancing to computer numerical control. When I got to 9th grade, I was put in the gifted program at Tri-Cities High School, which allowed me to be on the fast track to taking app classes in math and science. My freshman year, I started out taking gifted geometry first semester and gifted biology. This was not enough. I needed a challenge. That is when the streets called me, coupled with being a bored black inner city teen who was smarter than my own good and no money, I turned to a life of crime. I noticed many of my older neighbors who were sharp when I was a kid were now almost engulfed in a zombie-like state. Many old people crawled the streets like zombies in a decaying portrait of what was once a bustling black metropolis. In the old church where I learned to sing old Negro hymns was now being replaced with a liquor store. The city was changing, but more than anything, it was losing its vibrance and spirit of rich culture that once influenced it. It wasn't until I was in 11th grade and had a U.S. history course that talked about Nixon's war on drugs and the impact crack had on black communities and its further position in the economic disinvestment I saw in my own community. As my senior year veered closer, I recognized that my passion toward academics opened the door for my continued education at top-tier institutions. Mom was very hardworking and spent every penny she made on us. She worked at Chase Bank and worked part-time as a janitor at Georgia Tech. My mom always wanted me to go to Georgia Tech. She believed it would further connect me to my passion for technology and I would become a mechanical engineer and we would make it out the hood. My mom came into my room one afternoon and told me she was sending me to live with my uncle, who was an insurance adjuster that worked in Alpharetta, but lived in an affluent neighborhood in Loganville, Georgia. I was very nervous, but recognized this was for the best. My first day at Grayson High School, I felt out of place. I was an extreme minority, with most of my classes being predominantly white. To my surprise, the school had a robotics club. I spent most of my days at school in robotics club or working at a local mechanic shop. In one particular day, the teacher who was over the robotics club told me that they were having a robotics competition at Georgia Tech and that I needed to come up with an idea that would help me win. The scholarship prize was $5,000. That coupled with Hope Scholarship would pay for a large portion of my in-state tuition if I attended school in state. I immediately agreed and set out to develop something extraordinary. I spent hours racking my brain on what to build. As I lay on my bed of frustration, I heard my uncle's house phone ring. I ran to it and it was my friend Dante. He was my childhood friend, and he was also an all-region cornerback at Tri-Cities High School who just committed to play football at Georgia State. Hey, bro, you left an old book at my crib, Dante said. You still want it, bro. And all these years had passed, and the mechanical engineering book I stole from Morehouse campus still existed. I had no idea I left it at his house. I agreed to drive to East Point and get it. I explained to Dante that I wouldn't be able to stay long because I had to work on my idea for the project. I was working on a car that week that needed a new harmonic balancer. I decided to use this car to pick up the book from Dante's house. As I was driving, the car began to vibrate uncontrollably, and I ended up having to pull over near Druid Hills. I was frustrated. I remember I had some tools with me and popped open the hood. I had blown out the engine. I was completely screwed and realized I could be facing jail time if I didn't come with a solution of fixing the vehicle. I called Dante and met me in a local Kroger shopping center in Druid Hills. He handed me the book and helped me reach a local tow services where I towed the vehicle to my uncle's house. I needed a solution. This was a bad situation. The competition was tomorrow, and the damage I had done to the customer's car was looming over my head. I had so much anxiety and didn't know what I would tell the mechanic shop. Out of nowhere, I began reading the old mechanical engineering textbook. As I turned to the last chapter, words appeared on the page. Warning, turn to chapter at your own discretion. Chapter 1, Creating Kibuka. The text read that I was chosen to resurrect Kibuka, an ancient god from Nigeria. The instructions read as follows. A warrior fights with courage, not with anger. Instruction. Use the chassis, roll cage, or subframe from a car or truck to create the basic underlying suit structure that everything mounts to. This provides a strong steel base. Utilize suspension components like control arm and shock absorbers as joint pieces to allow flexibility and movement. Outer armor plating. Cut sections from the exterior body panels of a car like doors, hoods, roofs, etc. These steel sheets can act as armor plating for the main parts of the suit. Use circular headlights or tail lights to create details like the suit's arc reactor, helmet eyes, or a chest repulsor. Attach decorative trim pieces from the car's grille mirrors, vents, or other areas to emulate small suit details. Movement. Employ electric motors and gearboxes from powered car seats or windows to enable some parts of the suit to move. Use pneumatic cylinders and lines from the power door locks or suspension system to add movement. I followed all the instructions, and to my surprise, a magnificent suit looked me in the eye in my uncle's basement. The car I had been working on was completely torn apart, and I knew I was in a world of trouble. But with Kibuka, the door to a whole new life opened up.
They go Trap. He always talk about 2 letters. Cross tracks, he say he riding on whoever. Tar Heels, Carolina Blue Devils. We make it rain, Blue Hunters. New weather.
Mission 1. Here is our first mission to help me defeat the evil villain Mortello, who is making an attempt at hacking the Chase Bank. Objective: develop skill in the end-to-end application of quantum techniques by training Qiskit quantum classifier to predict movement of key financial assets. Background: Qiskit provides an accessible entry point for hands-on quantum programming without requiring physics expertise. This project leverages Qiskit's machine learning module to build practical experience on real-world data. Financial data exhibits complex nonlinear relationships between interrelated instruments over time. Modeling these multidimensional patterns strains classical neural networks. Quantum machine learning techniques offer richer feature representation and faster training convergence. This project applies these quantum advantages to forecasting equity index price shifts critical for algorithmic trading, portfolio optimization, and risk analysis. Data. Collect daily open close prices over 5 years for TF 500, 10 years treasury bond, US dollar versus euro, gold futures, VIX volatility index. Additionally, corporate major macroeconomic indicator releases known to impact markets like jobs figures, GDP, consumer confidence, etc. Pre-processing, clean missing values, apply smoothing filters, normalize features per asset to zero mean, unit variance, generate labels for next day price shift direction, model development, explore hyperqubit encoding schemes for input data. Split temporal slices for train and test. Iterate QFM training runs with varying complexity. Output predicted price shift for evaluation set. Evaluation, compare accuracy, fall score vs classical baselines. Check confusion matrix for insight into errors. Review mispredictions to identify model weaknesses, surface relationships learned from quantum encoding. Next steps. span model testing across more asset classes, and research integrating quantum feature learning, build pathways to production deployment, data detail. Time series data. We gather as long a history as possible, capturing regimes of high volatility and bull bear dynamics. Equity 500 daily OSC data index components, 25 years preferred for robust training head slicing. NES Treasury bond daily yields, 30-year minimum captures, multiple tightening nascent cycles. Currencies, daily exchange rates between USD and major counterparts, your JP, DP, KENI, ideal span and span across decades of coordinated central bank policies. Guys, some gold futures contract prices for 10 years and other resources like WTI crude allows modeling inflation cycles relative to other assets. And out major indicators like non-farm payrolls, GDP, consumer confidence of monthly quarterly granularity, Fed policy changes tied to economic swings. Label generation, asset price histories provide features for the model. We also require labels signifying short-term directional movement to train classification. For each date, we create a binary flag set to 1 if closing price in the next N days rises above current price hold trough. Tunes label look ahead while filters insignificant shifts, pre-processing, cleaning. Interpolate any missing values using temporal methods resistant to market shocks. Detect and filter outliers exceeding a threshold number of standard deviations from rolling means. Apply smoothing techniques and Kalman filters, preserving trend integrity. Plus feature scaling, normalize features grouped by asset type to zero mean and unit variance. Mitigates disproportionate influence and aids model convergence. Some techniques to consider: standard scalar from Sclerin. A robust scalar from Sclerin, less swayed by outliers. Custom scalar variance optimized for time series, optionally applied dimensionality reduction. Retaining 95 variance to eliminate noise and reduce model complexity. Consider PCA Quantum-inspired encoding. With robust data at scale and programmatically generated directional labels, we can develop highly predictive financial quantum classifiers using Qiskit machine learning modules. Data is the foundation on which model potential rests. Here is more detail expanded on data preprocessing for the Qiskit financial forecasting project. Additional preprocessing, temporal structure, classical machine learning models often assume feature independence. However, for time series, intrinsic temporality means substantial autocorrelation exists at various lags. We account for these long memory processes using internet modeling. For the rest of integrated move average models over 10 years, removing structure, residuals provide input to ML models, greatly enhancing predictiveness. Append past values of features at various rows. Old T5, T22, etc. provides commutative temporal view. Tuning choose most explanatory lags. Alternative model use SM neural nets or recurrent hybrid quantum networks, directly modeling sequential dependence, stationarity transformation. Time series often exhibit non-stationary behavior like trends and changing variance. We induce stationarity to meet modeling assumptions. Then subtract each point from prior values shifted by lag delta. This removes slowly changing drifts as forms. Apply natural logarithms moderating growth curves. Detrending, fit and subtract slow moving trend component revealing cycles across asset encoding. Instead of segregating features by asset vertical, we can construct unified meta features capturing cross dynamics like correlation, cointegration, volatility spillover, and more. This provides very rich intermarket topology. Next techniques includes correlation networks, construct feature correlation matrix across all assets, cluster highly correlated instruments using community detection graph algorithms, test for price equilibrium across assets using Engel-Granger methodology, residuals from error correction model, also useful predictors, space decomposition. Break each time series into trend cycles, seasonal noise components, regress to identify shared latent traits driving markets. Interval component analysis, identify meta factors, reducing overall dimensionality while explaining maximum variance, suitable for quantum encoding. The extensive data pre-processing and feature engineering performed reduces noise, enabling a quick learner to better disentangle explainable signals. Our models can then accurately forecast financial market movement rather than fitting random noise. Cutting-edge pre-processing, dynamic time warping, financial time series often exhibit temporal drifts and dynamics across seasons, economic regimes, etc. Dynamic time warp aligns signals adapting to phase-shifted periods. Use that to match peaks and troughs between training and test distributions. Provides warp stretching and compression of timeline, minimizing difference. Enables accurate comparisons despite fluctuating periodicity. Yields a warping function that quantifies historical deviations in cycle alignment. Can input learn warping function directly into quantum models via custom or symbolic representation. Rather than rely solely on numerical metrics, we extract symbolic traits capturing nonlinear behavior. Discretize daily price change distribution in quarter very low, low, high, very high. Scan time series with sliding window, identifying categorical pattern sequences like VHL. Tabulate frequency of discovered substring motifs, builds probabilistic grammar of chain-based rules. Quantum classifiers naturally learn these grammatical constructs. Encodes complex nonlinear structure missed by purely numeric models. Custom quantum kernels. Kernels project inputs nonlinearly into high-dimensional Hilbert feature spaces well-suited for quantum learning. We design custom kernels encoding specialized knowledge of financial system intricacy. Parameterized semi-parametric kernel families, Gaussian, Laplacian, Cauchy, etc. Iterate kernel selection and hyperparameter tuning using quantum variational search. Encode expert rules, topological network properties, and temporal semantics. Project data into infinite quantum feature space capturing latent relationships. Encode modular kernels into deep combinations. Dimensionality expansion. We generate new predictive signals absent from original feature set. Like Monte Carlo scenarios for risk factors spanning uncertainty regimes. Allow for additional attributes in alternative physics systems by a quantum simulation. Build quantum Boltzmann machines hallucinating entirely new datums. Catalog relationship mixtures between entities using quantum mutual information. Subject original data to battery of quantum transformations, uncovering nonlinear latent semantics. This extensive preprocessing rigor extracts every last ounce of explanatory signal from the raw data. Augmenting dimensions via quantum techniques provides the enriched fuels powering breakthrough financial forecast. Our stack quantum classifier shall achieve unprecedented predictive accuracy. Feature scale and deep dive. Variable scaling and the robust scalar resizes features using statistics less influenced by outliers. Leverages the inner quantum range of trial, Ragekin rather than standard deviation to gauge spread. Calculates ICARE, ignoring extreme values at distribution tails. Subtracts median and divides by AQR plus small constant. Derives robustness when data contains anomalies or errors. IQS works well for financial time series with transient extreme shock that distort estimates. The technique better preserves valid volatility dynamics. Custom temporal scalars, standard techniques like robust scaling tree, all time steps uniformly. We design custom scalars adapting to intrinsic time series properties. Calculate scale statistics dynamically across rolling time windows rather than global. Auto-tune window spans using information criteria balancing local adaptivity with overfitting risk. For metrics like variance decompose into a cyclic, seasonal, and evolving components. Model stochastic volatility as Garch process. Scale by predicted latent local volatility. Utilize wavelet multi-resolution analysis, applying adaptive filters matched to intrinsic cycle wavelengths. Specialized time series scaling provides superior normalization, retains complex sequential structure missed by static methods. Quantum feature scaling, and we projection assets into quantum feature spaces with adaptive dimensionality. Initialize parametric quantum circuit with gate weights drawn from random distribution. Join with classical preprocessor tuning circuit via iterative optimization. gap inputs into quantum space represented by circuit wave function. A set loss function reducing discrepancies of quantum distribution versus target scaling criteria. Adapt parameters increasing dimensionality until target scaling achieved. Quantum circuits overcome limits of predefined transformations, specializing to nuances of financial data topology. Multimodal pre-training, WeProm model converges using unsupervised pre-training techniques. Implement autoencoder architecture, compressing input to low-dimensional codes and reconstructing signals. Add adversarial loss terms, promoting encoded feature uniformity across assets. Alternatively, pre-train generator and discriminator subnets under opposing constraints in GAN framework. Pre-training on surrogate dataset matching target statistics. Jointly rescaling and conforming features in a semi-supervised paradigm enables faster supervised learning downstream. As evident, tailored preprocessing lays the foundation for maximizing potential gains from quantum ML advantages. We squeeze every ounce of signal from the data, fueling enhanced financial forecasting fidelity. Bleeding edge preprocessing, quantum feature crosstalk, immersion. Inter-asset temporal encoding often fails, retaining key stationary cross-asset dependence. Catalog all asset feature pairs, registering significant quantum mutual information. For each pair, iteratively construct quantum Jensen-Shannon joint probability distribution, directly encoding non-zero Kieman. Decompose joint distributions with tensor networks, surgically targeting factor matrices, violating stationarity. Insert matrix patches, reestablishing equilibrium quantum statistics across temporal epoch. Recombine patch tensor network into unified stationary joint asset encoding. This taps into the true potential of quantum mechanics to deeply immerse features within joint probabilistic spaces, obeying precise statistical invariance across turbulent markets. Orthogonal sequence memristor circuitry. Memristor networks natively support memory-intensive temporal feature storage. Fabricate non-von Neumann memristor array with evaporative patterning of metallic oxide substrate. Imprint financial feature vectors within device physics using write once, read many word program impulses. Wide architecture arranges signals by orthogonal similarity, facilitating content addressable readout. Issue heterosynaptic modulation protocols to continually adjust feature dimensionality. Exploiting physics dynamics for intrinsic sequence storage reduces reliance on rigid digital abstractions ill-suited for the fluidity of financial data streams. Hilbert spectral analysis. Frequency domain techniques uncover hidden cyclical predictors. Apply Hilbert transform converting time series X into complex analytical signal X as the imaginary component captures phase shifted waveform orthogonal to original X compute amplitude and instantaneous frequency traces, revealing harmonic structure. Identify stable predictive subcycles among noise with quantum conditional entropy filters. Morphing real value series into multidimensional analytic signals exposes spectral predictors invisible within vanilla asset prices. So in summary, rather than force-fit financial data into restrictive classical preprocessing, we directly harness quantum properties and intricate engineering to gently adapt models around the mutable structure of markets. This positions the enriched feature set for unmatched forecast and liftoff. We will next launch into reviewing myriad techniques, unleashing quantum machine learning potentials atop this sturdy data scaffolding. Quantum memoristic optical neural network, memoristic devices natively support memory-intensive processing, while optical circuits excel for dynamic computing. Fabricate photonic integrated circuit with phase change memristors as non-von Neumann processing units. Imprint raw financial feature tensors onto memristor arrays using multi-frequency femsecond opticals. Architect specialized mesh topologies between processing nodes based on glass interposers etched with holographic lithograph. Optically interrogate memristor arrays with modulated VCL arrays to stimulate nonlinear activation responses. This framework, combining optical and memoristic phenomena, efficiently fuses intensive memorization and processing, eliminating rigid digital bottlenecks. Intrinsic dimension estimation. We discern the minimal embedding dimensionality before risking over parameterization. Incrementally construct local tangent spaces approximating manifold geometry via sparse modeling of derivative frames. Actively partition data set into maximum homogeneity blocks based on projected affinity. Evaluate intrinsic dimensionality of each charted region via quantified dropout in the eigenvalue spectra of the Kirchhoff matrix. Stratified aggregation yields global intrinsic dimension estimate balancing localization, and this advanced technique pierces through superficial dimensionality bloat brimming in most asset data, carving away excess bulk before prime modeling. Geometric manifold alignment. Exponential geometry often suffers distortion across market regimes. Underlying data manifolds become torn and stretched by periods of high volatility. Manifold tearing compounds via autoencoding known market states onto themselves, increasingly bifurcating the learned space. Explicitly model temporal intermanifold dynamics with coherent point drift alignment of intrinsic local subspaces. Matrix nearness problem inverted through alternating gradient descent applied on kernel matrix inner products by coherently aligning geometric substructures back into global correspondence. We mend broken markets into integrated continuity. As evident by now, combining advanced mathematical concepts with intricate engineering pushes pre-processing capabilities far beyond conventional boundaries. The subsequent enriched signals unleash fuller potentials of quantum learning.